Look, just bear with me to explain this as easily as I can without sounding as if I'm a warmonger or supporting combat. Far from it. But outside of being deployed in defense of our nation's policies and our nation itself, outside of being deployed, the average, and I'll speak for soldiers, the average soldier's day can be, unless they have leaders who come up with unique ways of going about the day, can be, dare I say, monotonous, right? And because of that monotony, it can lose some meaning. More about that story later. Hi there, Warren here. If you're new here, welcome. Nice to meet you. If you're returning, welcome back. But yeah, isn't it strange? We spend most of our lives thinking about what we'll do, but very little thinking about what we'll become because of it. And some of us move in straight lines from goal to goal, promotion to promotion. And then there are those of us who spiral and follow and chase curiosity wherever it may lead. And then there are those of us who drift or caught in transition, moving along every couple of years. But here's the real question, I think, the real honest question that we need to ask ourselves when it comes to career paths is, does the shape of our career or our life's path fits our happiness, right? And I think it's a fair question to ask because not every success feels like peace. And in saying that, I want you to keep this in mind too. If you believe that the true currency of our lives is our happiness, if you believe that, and I think most of you will probably agree, then keep an open mind and let's get after it. All right? Like I said, thanks for your time. I know it's precious and I know it's one of the only things you're in control of. And spending some with me doesn't go unnoticed. I am honored for you to be here. So, in saying that, I'm not going to keep you any longer. Here we go. But when we talk about happiness, we often think of it as an emotion, right? A feeling we chase or a reward that we earn. But I mean, happiness is really a rhythm, right? It's the pulse that tells us if our alignment, whether the life we're living matches the careers or the person that we really are. I mean, at least I think so. But I mean, the truth is, no single career path promises joy either, right? A linear life can bring comfort or be quiet despair. Professional or the expert may feel pride or pressure or pressure. And I can relate to that one. And we'll deep dive that a little bit more in a minute. And then the spiral can be alive or always just anxious, always, because of the fact that, not to be coy with the word, they're always spiraling, right? Not in the literal sense, but you get my play on the word. And then the transitional may feel free, but because of that freedom, they also might feel like they're always just floating, right? Never finding a home per se, somewhere to hang their hats. But in saying all of that, I think it's not about all that. It is about the path itself, right? It's whether you're walking, it's whether you're walking one that's true to you because at the end of the day, that's all that matters. If it's not true to you, then why even bother, right? And then the reason I said being in any category you shouldn't dwell, it's because peace isn't just about movement, right? It's not. It comes from, dare I say, and dare I sound cheesy and typical, it comes from finding meaning. But let's get into the meat and potatoes of what I really want to talk about. I was listening to one of my favorite people on happiness, Dr. Arthur Brooks, Harvard professor, writer of many good books about happiness and life in general. And he was talking about the four types of careers. And he was talking about it more in the context of how to go about them, finding which one you are and transitioning through them, right? And I was listening to it and I wanted to take it into a different context and align it. He too was aligning it with happiness overall, but I wanted to take it in a different direction and just align each of them with what is gained and what is lost when you deep dive it and find out which one you are. And it's it's not to scare anyone because you'll find too that some of them overlap. Like it was interesting because I found that I fell into the professional slash expert and also in the linear. And so there's overlap, right? So don't despair. But I mean, let's get into it though. Let's get into it. And before we deep dive them all, I'll tell you what they are, right? They're linear, professional, or expert, transitional, and spiral. Hmm. And they're really interesting. I found it to be really interesting because linear, as it sounds, is being in a company. You start at the bottom and your trajectory is a straight line, right? Your trajectory would be a very smooth climb from the bottom all the way to as far as you aspire to be and that the company will let you be, right? Say an intern that joins a company and over 20 years becomes the vice president or even the president or the chief operations officer, the chief investment officer, the chief financial officer. Basically, they stayed in one lane and kept growing, right? That's the linear career path. And there's nothing wrong with that. As a matter of fact, that is most of the time the one that is um, advised to children from parents and relatives and loved ones, right? But let's take it in the happiness lens. And don't beat me up too bad. Don't beat me up too bad. It's the science. It's not me. Beat up Dr. Arthur Brooks. But seriously, from the happiness lens, linear careers, and that's why they're often recommended, offers stability, a very important thing, right, in career growth, especially those who are aspiring to be parents. You want that stability, right? But on the other hand, it can be suffocating for those who crave variety and purpose beyond promotions and recognitions. I forgot to add recognition earlier. But yeah, stability and recognition is two of the things that are pursued in linear career paths. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. But from the happiness lens, if you find, if you're a linear career path person that you are unhappy, it just might be because there is no variety. And no true purpose because your everyday is kind of the same, right? Groundhog day every day. But seriously, that's why I wanted to take it on because I don't think we look at that. We hate people at our jobs, right? We do. There are a lot of Karens at the water cooler. So we hate people at our jobs and we hate days at our jobs. But overall, that is not why we are unhappy. We're unhappy with the choice of career itself. And yes, people, yes, I know life gets a vote, right? I'm talking about for those who can choose. Some people are where they are because of life's circumstances. I get that. I am talking about when there is a choice. Okay? So take a look at that. If you're quietly restless, success without joy at your linear career path, that might be, in addition to Karen at the cooler, that might be why you're unhappy, right? But you're not alone. You're not alone because the experts or the professionals, they have their problems too. And we're getting to us because I fall into that category. And these folks are like government workers, right? Soldiers, first responders, government workers that stay in again, rather than climbing vertically, this group tends to want to grow deeper in mastery. Okay. And so they stay the path and it's also stable and there is recognition within it. But like the linear path, there are some cause and effects for our unhappiness. People often ask me what were the reasons for retiring from the army. And it's one of the things. I'm going backwards with us now because I'm using myself as an example. Instead of defining and telling you all the goodness of it, I'm going to tell you from the lens of happiness. But they ask, what are some of the reasons? And one of them was purely that things became monotonous. Indeed, even in the military, that can occur. Feeling challenged, right? And look, just bear with me to explain this as easily as I can without sounding as if I'm a warmonger or supporting combat. Far from it. But outside of being deployed in defense of our nation's policies and our nation itself, outside of being deployed, the average, and I'll speak for soldiers, the average soldier's day can be, unless they have leaders who come up with unique ways of going about the day, can be, dare I say, monotonous, right? And because of that monotony, it can lose some meaning. I told you I wanted to be delicate with it, but it's true. It's true, right? It started to become monotonous to me, and I stopped wanting to get after it and go get after it the way I was getting after it, and I was preaching that to my soldiers too. So I felt like the hypocrite for not feeling what I was saying. So it kind of just lost some meaning for me, and outside of being deployed, your day can be, not always, can be. Again, it's all about leadership, right? If your leaders are super ingenious and think outside the box, as they say, you can get through days and not seem so monotonous. But I mean, the professional or expert path, satisfaction through skill, right? Pride and identity. Sounds a little overlapping. I told you it would be. It's not, like I said, necessarily the choice of careers, but it's the path, right? So the overlap shouldn't be a surprise. But yeah, rather than climbing vertically, it's just a deeper attempt at mastering whatever skill sets, even if it's a skill set, it's all about trying to master that skill set more so than a vertical climb. So, see, you're not alone, linears. Oh, man. All right, spirals. You guys, in some respects, you rock, right? Because I couldn't do spirals. I don't think at all. I couldn't do the series of connected pivots, changing industries every few years. Same skills, just different scenery each year and each change building on itself. You could argue that builds that makes for a very robust and well-rounded person. And I would agree. I would agree, right? Let's say a teacher goes from being a teacher to a corporate trainer, leadership coach, a leadership coach, and then running a podcast about personal growth, right? All in the same vein, connected by communication and teaching, right? But requires a whole lot of flexibility and not just not just mental flexibility and physical flexibility, but emotional flexibility. That emotional flexibility to always start over without thinking that you failed, right? And done right, I mean, this path can always feel alive, right? And I could see it. I could see it. It's tempting. I could see why this path is tempting. But done wrong, it can also just feel overwhelmingly confusing, which is why I said you guys rock, because when I was thinking about it and looking it up and listening to Dr. Brooks, I was just like, that would be so confusing, man. I can't keep track of a simple calendar of just 30 to 31 days. And yeah, double thumbs up to you guys. But yeah, man, you could see just how, if done wrong, how seriously unhappy spiralers could get. I mean, to the point of probably even needing professional medical help to deal with the stresses, the emotional drain that I think would come with that. I mean, I talk about being emotionally flexible, and that's just dealing with your career, not relationships, not kids if there are any in the picture, family, life in general. This is just your career. So yeah, spiralers, if you're really unhappy lately, think about that. It might just be your career path. And again, folks, I'm talking about those fortunate enough to have the conversation about changing. And if you can't change, maybe it's also helpful to just ask yourself those questions and find ways to pull yourself away from the job more often, right? Just to get a little bit of your peace back. Because time is one of those things in the drop down menu of life you're not going to get more of. Okay. So you're not going to make up time, but you can carve some out going forward, having asked and answered these questions to just make yourself a little happier in the path that you currently are because you don't have the choice like those that I'm actually targeting here, right? But if you have the choice, you ask yourself, like I said in the beginning, if you believe that the true currency of your life is your happiness, why are you staying in an unhappy in an unhappy situation? I mean, words. But seriously, why? Transitionals. We haven't forgot about you guys. Constantly. You guys put the constant in change. Always defined by constant change and reinventing yourselves. Reinvention is the path, really. Frequent, another word for you guys. But the frequency and the constant for you is unique. But even more unique is that they're often, unlike linear and professional slash experts and our spiralers, you guys, they're unrelated. Interesting. I found that really, really interesting. Kind of like somebody who switches from hmm, marketer to yoga to instructor to writing a book, right? Nothing related to the other at all. Another example, somebody who leaves corporate life to travel, then teaches for a while, opens a small cafe, writes a book. That's you guys, right? Nothing relates to the other. And that, the happiness tie in there is just that. It's so freeing for you guys, right? And that freedom for you is the story itself, even though it's also the problem. You guys value experience over titles, and that can be anxiety inducing, I think, right? Just that nomadic mentality, and it's not just even a mentality, you're actually carrying it out, right? And I think not having people, because of that nomadic behavior, people might say you don't have a clear story, right? And for some, by people asking that, then some might question their self-worth. And then for others, that freedom, right? That unwritten story is in and of itself, not to sound cheesy, is the story, the freedom, that freeing way of just taking on life is the story for some of you guys. But I said the spiralers rock. You guys are unique. Very interesting. I couldn't do you guys either. I couldn't be a transitional. That nomadic, my anxiety would be highly induced. So yeah, so the next time transitionals, you're feeling a little unhappy, maybe, like the others, ask the question, is it because of the career path and not the things that are happening in and around the job, right? Because there are Karens everywhere, but not inside the cordon, right? Not what's happening inside the cordon, but the cordon itself. Okay? You. You have to find out what's going on with you in the career path that you chose. And if it might be time to shift because you're leaning to another or you're more in line with another and never really thought about it and can, I say, why not? I say, why not? But just to wrap up, maybe happiness isn't found in chasing the next title or even in rejecting it. Maybe it's just about alignment, choosing the path that mirrors who we really are, right? And not who the world told us to be. And then whether we're linear, professional, spiral, transitional, we all find peace in our own different ways, right? It comes when our rhythm, our true life's rhythm, and that sounds philosophical, but truly, when your true life rhythm matches your truth, that's when I think we start to find some peace, right? I don't know about you, but that's what I find. Because again, like I said earlier, the problem isn't the path. It's walking somebody else's. That to me is more problematic than anything else, right? It isn't our path, but being unhappy, walking someone else's, I think, is overly problematic. So I say happiness hides in the path that costs you less of yourself. So that's the path I recommend that you choose. All right. That's the one I chose. And so far, it's been a pretty good choice. All right. So until our next conversation, you be good out there. Take care of yourselves and we'll talk again soon. We'll see you.